Hello, this is Ruslan Belov with you. So, friends, the front continues to shift across various sectors. In the Sumy region, the Lyman direction, near Kostantinovka, around Pokrovsk, and further south from Otradne toward Komar, it's happening everywhere. Let's start with the Lyman direction. There haven't been any updates from this area for about a week. Why? Because the Ukrainian Armed Forces, UAF Command, has transferred reserves here to support the Azov fighters. They've managed to somewhat stabilize this part of the front. Nevertheless, after prolonged, exhausting battles, it was possible to break through the UAF's defenses west of the village of Novoe. The advance reached 2 kilometers in depth. In addition, the entire eastern part of the village of Rydkodub is now under our full control. This refers to complete and undisputed control, acknowledged even by Ukrainian, Western and American cartographers. But if we look at the so-called gray zone, as defined by American mapmakers, it means there's no Ukrainian control or presence in those areas. And as you can see, those areas are quite large. At the very least, there's no UAF presence up to the center of Rydkodub. And further south, they've pulled back all the way to the village of Karpivka. So yes, the front here has slowed down, but it continues to move. I've seen comments asking, when will the assault on Lyman begin? Well, listen, we can only start talking seriously about Lyman when all this territory, Karpivka, Sredne, Zelenaya Dolina, Kolodezi and Stavki, is under our control. Only then can we realistically think about battles for the city. Right now, it's too early. Yes, Lyman is close, just 10 to 11 kilometers away. But we must understand, elite units like Azov are stationed here, and the terrain is difficult. Still, the front is moving, and occasionally there are even significant breakthroughs. Just don't rush the guys. Let them do their job while minimizing losses. Now let's move to the Kostantinovka section of the front. After yesterday's powerful collapse, and I'll remind you, we took 67 square kilometers in just one day on this sector. I reported on this in my last video. So now clearing operations are underway, which means there's been minimal forward movement today. By the way, I posted a video in my Telegram channel yesterday from this very area. And you know what you see? UAF soldiers dumping the bodies of their dead comrades into a pit and simply burying them with an excavator and filming it all on camera. They claim they have no way to retrieve the bodies, so they're forced to bury them in mass graves. I would show that footage here, but I'm afraid YouTube won't allow it. Now let's continue reviewing the front. A few words about the pocket between Toretsk and Myrnohrad. Yesterday, the eastern outskirts of the village of Zarya were cleared. As of now, Ukrainian forces are only present in the northern part of Zarya. In fact, they even attempted a counterattack yesterday, trying to push us out of the village center and back to the southern edge, but failed. Their group of 17 men was completely wiped out. Everything remained under our control, and we even expanded our hold on the eastern part of the village. As of now, we control about 80% of Zarya. And here's something remarkable. The residents of Zarya who stayed behind and refused evacuation, yesterday they welcomed Russian soldiers with hugs and tears in their eyes. Even the Ukrainian source Deep State couldn't believe it when they saw the footage. Their whole platform exploded yesterday. How could they welcome the occupiers? And so on. What's next on this section of the front? Now that the UAF's defensive line in these villages has been breached, there's an open space ahead all the way to Oleksandro-Kalin. That means more gains are coming soon, more territory will be taken. And if all goes well, by July we'll reach the outskirts of Kostantinovka. And by mid-July, the battles for the city will begin. Meanwhile, as part of the operation to encircle Kostantinovka, the western section of the front is also advancing. Right here, yesterday, we moved 1.5 kilometers forward and took control of the southern part of Popiv Yar. That's confirmed by objective control data. According to my own information, and I reported this yesterday, the UAF is no longer in the village. They've been driven out, and the entire village of Popiv Yar is under our full control. That's significant news, because the defensive line in this area is made up of 3 villages: Popiv Yar, Poltavka, and Rusin Yar. So now one of them is gone, leaving just Poltavka and Rusin Yar. After that, it's open ground for 10 or more kilometers. So once Poltavka and Rusin Yar are taken, expect major breakthroughs and a partial collapse of the front line, just like we saw yesterday in the Toretsk-Myrnohrad pocket. We'll be watching this area closely. And once again, let me emphasize, everything we're seeing across all these sectors is part of a single operation, not just to advance, but to encircle and capture Kostantinivka. And you can already see this semi-encirclement forming. Look, we're moving from here toward the northern outskirts. From these positions, we're pushing toward the western and even northwestern edges of the city, plus from here toward the eastern sectors. The Ministry of Defense recently announced that the village of Stupochki has come under our control. I cannot verify or confirm this information myself, as I have no contacts in that area. Moreover, we haven't yet seen any objective control footage. Still, even so, a semi-encirclement is already visible. With the ongoing advance, the ring is tightening, and by July we'll likely reach a point where the city will be in a full, or rather a tight, semicircle, with our positions on the high ground. And considering the terrain, the city itself lies in a lowland. That gives hope that the battle won't be as exhausting or as bloody as, say, the battle for Toretsk. All right, let's keep going. Now to the Sumy region. Here you can see that American cartographers didn't waste time. They already marked the village of Belovody as being under our full control, which we talked about in yesterday's report. And while we took Belovody the day before yesterday we captured another village in the Sumy region, Vladimirovka. American cartographers are still being cautious and marked it as a grey zone. But in reality, it's not a grey zone. In short, Vladimirovka is also under our control. This means the next step is to straighten the front between Vladimirovka and Belovody by taking control of the village of Vodolahi and then proceed toward Yunakivka. By the way, regarding Yunakivka, with the fall of Lochnia, the battle for what used to be a major logistics hub for the UAF is just around the corner. Ukrainian military analysts even started writing about this yesterday. Odd, considering that until very recently, they completely ignored our progress in the Sumy region and kept claiming it was all just grey zone territory. Well, yes, grey zone, which has now reached Yunakivka. Just to give you an idea, we now control 126 square kilometers in the Sumy region, and our deepest advance is 11.5 kilometers. That's how buffer zones are created, quietly and steadily. That's all I have for today regarding the frontline situation. Now, a few words about what's happening on the political stage. Kyiv is asking the US for Patriot air defense systems, but the US doesn't have any to spare, said Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Rubio was asked whether the Trump administration is ready to support a bill for new military aid to Ukraine. He replied that Ukraine is currently requesting additional air defense systems on top of previously provided aid. But the US can't provide them. They're asking for air defense systems, Patriot systems, which, to be honest, we simply don't have, Rubio said, but we are working closely with our NATO allies. Some NATO countries do have a few Patriot batteries. However, as you can imagine, none of them want to part with their systems, he added. Washington no longer considers Ukraine a top priority in arms supply, writes The Economist. Under the Biden administration, Kyiv received aid as a matter of priority. But now it's just one of many potential buyers competing for deliveries. According to the magazine's sources, Ukraine is willing to pay any price for Patriot systems, but their requests remain unanswered. Meanwhile, Trump has indicated dissatisfaction with Russian airstrikes on Ukraine. The US president stated that he doesn't like what Putin has been doing in Ukraine recently. Trump also mentioned that he is definitely considering imposing sanctions on Russia. His remarks were reported by Sky News. It appears this kind of rhetoric is the result of pressure on Trump from multiple directions, globalists both within the US and abroad, as well as pro-Trump factions in the US, writes Oleg Tsaryov. The Economist published a forecast suggesting that Russia may ramp up to launching 1,000 Shahed drones per night. Citing Ukrainian military intelligence, the article claims that Russian production could soon reach 500 drones per day, enabling industrial-scale mass strikes. Technically speaking, this constitutes a full-fledged drone siege system, where each city, air defense node, or critical infrastructure facility can be neutralized through multiple attack waves. If strikes reach a saturation point of 700 to 1,000 drones, no air defense system, Western or Soviet, will be able to provide full coverage, especially given limited missile stockpiles. Essentially, under such conditions, air defenses must shift to strict target prioritization. Every interceptor missile must now be weighed against the value of the target. You can defend either a command post, a thermal power station, or a warehouse, but not all at once. The probability of other targets being hit increases because neither the Patriot nor any other system is designed to counter attacks of this density, especially when they're ongoing and relentless. If Russia truly reaches the claimed output of 500 drones per day, and 1,000 drone waves become regular, the solution turns into an extremely cost-effective one. Compared to cruise missiles, these drones become a strategic weapon for infrastructure destruction. At such volumes, they are nearly impossible to intercept. The Ukrainian armed forces are already struggling to neutralize the current wave, which notably is only a quarter of the projected volume.